Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Tonight, we shall focus on the potential of one of the newest ministries, carved out of the Ministry of Transportation, Marine and Blue Economy. And we'll be uncovering the huge potential, as well as the task ahead of the new team in the coming months. As usual, we'll have in the studio panelists who are well-grounded to speak to the subject matter, marine and blue economy. But before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Michael Olale.
This 2015 Code from Reviving the Ocean Economy confirms the potentiality of the seas and oceans to stimulating a vast economic powerhouse. And to buttress this fact, experts say the blue economy is worth $1.5 trillion per year globally.
Nigeria's commitment to the sustainability of the blue economy is demonstrated by the adoption of the UN SDGs. This is in addition to the identification of regional and cross-border partnerships necessary for the implementation of the Blue Economy Plan.
Nigeria, realizing this, is now determined to translating its coastline of 853 kilometers and 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone to maximizing the potentials in the blue economy by creating a ministry vested with such responsibility.
It will unlock infrastructural development in the area of job creation. It will draw attention and focus on technological developments in food production. And of course, it will give rise to smart ports, green and renewable energy production, and focus on other alternative sources of energy, such as windmills. It will also give a kick to the old traditional maritime sector to rise up and optimize their efficiency and competence in their operational performance.
Crucial in the quest to actualizing these lofty ambitions is the call for proper framework to guide the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy on policies bordering on the Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, CVFF, and increasing indigenous participation in the shipping business.
Marine talks about our waters. The first thing that comes to mind is your floating assets, either fixed or moving. If you don't have your floating assets, then you are not even set to tap into the opportunities in the maritime sector of the economy. We could do everything that needs to be done to establish that fleet, whether it is privately owned, publicly owned, or a public-private partnership owned. Let it fly Nigerian flag.
While the country commences the voyage of transiting from crude to blue economy, stakeholders are calling for sustainable use of marine resources for future's sake and advocating friendly policies that will encourage many to participate in the promising industry.
We are ready, we are onto it, but what left now is how to structure it and have get a sustainability so that we can get the youth employment being expanded, and we make sure that the revenue accrued to the federal government, and also we get some sector that will complement the revenue of the oil and gas industry that we are.
A new path of increasing options of growing the country's gross domestic product has been laid, and stakeholders say success will be determined by collaborative efforts among maritime key players. In Lagos, Michael Olale.
Right, that discussion sets the tone for tonight's, report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. George Morgalu is Managing Director of the National Inland Waterways, NIWA. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Sorry.
Let me also introduce Professor Samuel Dike. He is a professor of energy and comparative environmental law He's also the president of Environmental Lawyers of Nigeria, as well as the Deputy Dean, Faculty of Law, Rivers State University. Prof, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Right. And joining us from our Lagos studio is Dr. Bashir Yusuf Jamu. He is Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency in IMASA. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Very much serious over.
Right, thank you. And also joining this discussion is Engineer Emmanuel Ilori. He is a former senior marine engineer surveyor to Lloyd's Register of Ship in London and immediate vice president, Association of Marine Engineers and Surveyors. He joins us via Zoom. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me, Cyril.
Right. Okay. Well, at some point in time, we do expect that the discussion will be more robust. That's when it gets interactive and you join in the conversation. And as I'm sure a lot of people tonight would be wanting to find out just the concept behind this marine and blue economy. That's a new one for us around these parts. But when it is that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. But for now, let's start off looking at what it entails. And Dr. Mogadu, first things first, many Nigerians were surprised. The mills had been churning with so many speculations about certain reviews that would be done regarding the ministerial setup, but not many were prepared to just suddenly hear this new ministry, Marine and Blue Economy. And not a few people were asking, what's that, Blue Economy? And, except for people who were vast in such matters, who immediately came up and offered some kind of explanation of what it entails. But again, a lot of it would seem to have been taken out of transportation. And so give us an insight into the blue economy and marine and the resources that can be derived from such an agency of government.
All right, thank you. Like I said earlier, thank you for having me. And I want to take a look at it from this perspective. Firstly, I want to congratulate government, the president, and the team working with him for that initiative. This is one area a lot of us who are in the industry have been clamoring that emphasis should be laid on. Government must take special interest in that sector of the economy, because I'm amongst those who believe very strongly about the potentials of that sector of our economy and the role it can play in developing this economy. So when this ministry came to be, we received it with great excitement, because what that goes to show is that government has now laid emphasis on that aspect of our economy, realizing the potentials, realizing the advantage, realizing what it's going to bring to the table. And at the same time also de-emphasizing the emphasis we put on the oil sector, because we believe very strongly that if properly harnessed, if we make the needed investment, that the blue economy has the potentials of being another very strong source of income for this country, and has the potentials of being developed to the extent that other issues like unemployment, like other aspects of our natural economy can then be grown up from there. So for us, as a people, for those of us who are in the industry, it was a very welcome initiative, and we're very excited about it, and we are very hopeful that if what is expected is done, if the rules, if the programs are all put in proper perspective, then the benefit will be manifest, and in a very short time.
All right, thank you. We'll go into the details as we go into the discussion proper, but let's come to Professor Samuel Dickey. And what struck you at first when you heard this new ministry mentioned? What were your immediate thoughts?
Thank you, Cyril. I must say that government desire to think outside the box. By that I mean going beyond the monolithic economic, structure in Nigeria to think on other ways to diversify our nation's economy. When the ministry was announced, I felt, yes, government is doing well, trying to think outside the box to make sure that other money-spinning, avenues are being considered, and one of which is the ocean and ocean-related resources, and that possesses huge potential to increase our GDP and economic growth. And when we talk about ocean and ocean-related resources, we're looking at, marine energy, offshore energy. We're looking at ecotourism. We're looking at deep offshore mining activities. We're looking at transportation, shipping. All of that are put together under what we call blue economy. Harnessing all of these, disaggregated sectors into one, exemplify what we can call blue economy. And I want to tell you that Nigeria is on the right path, because out there in other developed climes, blue economy has been able to provide enough, economic power line, if you like. And I believe that we're going to tap on them. We have a lot of good potential. Remember, we are part of Gulf of Guinea, and Nigeria is a coastal state as well. And so we can harness all the potentials we have in the ocean. So much lies on the blue economy. And I want to congratulate our president for thinking outside the box, at least for once, taking a decisive action to look beyond oil to other areas such as blue economy. Is the right step in the right direction.
You did mention a key there. You talked about energy, offshore energy. That will come to later on. That's what a lot of people will be interested in, that, in the energy crisis. But again, let's go over to our Lagos studio, and Dr. Bashir Jamu is right there, and he joins us on this conversation. And again, you have also been a key player in this industry. So let's hear from you, your first impressions.
Thank you, Mr. Cyril. My first impression, I'm not surprised at all when I heard that we have a new ministry, marine and blue economy. Because if you look the antecedents of the president, when he was governor of Lagos State, he initiated the Lekki Deep Sea Port. And God willing, today Lekki Deep Sea Port is one of the ports biggest in Africa. So, and by the time I had that, I said, really, we are getting into the true status of things in this country. If you can remember, Cyril, we have been championing this. We tag the campaign on blue economy, from crude to blue. That's our slogan. And we move through the governors of 8 coastal states to develop the strategy and the framework of the blue economy. We started this as far back as 2021. So we created awareness in terms of the blue economy, how we can shift from land-based economy to the water economy, how we can shift from crude oil to the oceans and seas resources. And a lot has been said, a lot has been discussed by the industry players. So today we are seeing that thing to be a reality. Despite the fact that I'm not surprised, I would like to appreciate and congratulate the team and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for considering it worthy to listen to the appeal of the stakeholders of the maritime industry to consider a standalone maritime ministry and marine ministry and the blue economy. He did not only separate marine, because most of the players of the industry players, they wanted to see a separation of marine from the transportation, but he specifically targeted at the blue economy. Now, in the world, we have about now 7 countries having Ministry of Blue Economy as a standalone, and Nigeria now followed the queue. This will give us the opportunity to concentrate and harness the gains and the benefits of the blue economy. And the concentration of blue economy will entail in diversifying our own economy from mono economy of oil and gas, which constitute over 95%, to another economy, which I believe that is going to sustain this country. Now, when you look at the oil and gas sector, Mr. Cyril, over the last 5 years, it's been stagnating from 2,000 barrels per day. We moved to even below $1,000 per day. From over $100 per barrel, today we even hit to about $40 per barrel. And this, countries that do patronize our crude, day in, day out, they are working hard to see how they can reduce the dependence on our crude oil. That means in the next 10 years, our crude oil may be left for us to use it internally and without any option. Now, we have to start planning today for that rainy day in the event that the oil that we use, this Western nation decide not to use it at all. So the government decided to think loud and try to put more focus on the blue economy. And I'm happy the Honorable Minister of Transportation put in place to champion this new ministry. Was a former governor, and he understands the challenges of issues that has to do with employment, economic growth, as well as ensuring eradication of poverty. So once the minister understands that these are the things, or that these are the cardinal objectives of the blue economy, to make sure that the Nigerians that are yet to be employed, we have over 350 million employment generation by the blue economy, either directly or indirectly. What portion of 350 million jobs that blue economy provide worldwide can provide for Nigeria? What is the percentage? If we look at national level, regional level, like Professor mentioned, that is the Gulf of Guinea, and then continental level, Africa as a whole, and then the international level, what Nigeria can do to explore and sell in those markets so that we can boost and build our own economy. I think, Cyril, where we are today, I think it sounds very promising for Nigerians. All we need to do is to put the necessary policies in place, X-ray, and put microscope in the sector, these sectors, to see what we are doing right. Where are we today, and what are we doing wrong, so that we can now bridge this gap. We maximize and tap the maximum resources that we can get from the blue economy. This blue economy had the capacity of providing over 2.5 trillion. Some they say 1.5. That was an old figure. So what percentage Nigeria can get from $2.5 trillion in terms of the resources in the blue economy. I think this is where we are heading to, and all hands must be on deck to make sure that we maximize this opportunity given to us, and so that we can improve the well-being of Nigerians.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll return to you in a moment. But we also have the Marine Engineer Surveyor, Engineer Emmanuel Ilori. Let's hear you. You've listened to the other panelists. Let's get your views, your initial views on this.
Thank you very much, Cyril. I'll go a little bit historical to the development of Nigeria by the colonialists. The maritime sector played a major role in the development of Nigeria. And I want to ask, where did we get it wrong? As remote as Nigeria is from centers of development, the colonial masters came to Nigeria and developed a global economy. So the question then is, how did we end up abandoning that vital lifeline for the development of this nation? And that's why I'd like to thank the president for going back to our roots and creating the maritime ministry. Now, then the issue then is, how do we address this? We have had various people talk about figures, and then as desirable as these figures are, we need to prioritize areas of development. The maritime logistics plays a vital role in the development of any nation. And a nation that is such endowed with maritime assets like Nigeria has should actually be grateful. Let's look at some of the low-hanging fruits. Maritime transportation, very, very key. You cannot rely on your road network and our fledgling railway networks. You must have an integrated logistics to drive the economy. The maritime sector plays a major role in that. So the maritime transportation with its attendant infrastructure, investment, finance, you name it. Now, food security. For any nation, food security plays a major part. And Nigeria, again, being endowed with such vast ocean, will need to harness that part of our economy to drive this, to feed these 2 million or 200 million people. So that's key. Those are one of the low-hanging fruits. Now, Nigeria, again, is blessed with vast coast. Unfortunately, tourism hasn't played a major part in our economy. If you go into various other countries, the maritime tourism is a huge part of the economy. These are major drivers of the economy. So these are, for us, I think, the low-hanging fruits, low-hanging areas where we should be focusing. Of course, there are other areas of aspiration where we have talked about energy. Yes, it's very desirable to have what maritime-based energy, windmill, you name it. Undersea cabling, again, we can see how we can link with other nations. Seabed, extractive industries, just to mention a few. But what I'm trying to say here is that we need to prioritize how we engage with this maritime or blue sea economy to drive our national development.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, listen to Engineer Emmanuel Ilori there. He's listed out a number of areas, and he calls them, these are places you can really have the low-hanging fruits, as as we say these days. And one of those places is transportation, marine transportation. And there are watchers who would say to you that given Nigeria's water bodies, given Nigeria's, the coastal states, and access to huge marine resources, the transportation aspect of that ought to have been far, far, far beyond where we are today. With the coming on stream of a marine ministry, how so do you think this would be?
Yes, certainly. Like Engineer Ilori rightly said, it's part of the low-hanging fruits. Because statistics have shown that we have over 853 kilometers of coastal line. And it may interest you also to note that we have over 10,000 kilometers of inland waterways in our country today. It may also interest you to note that we can access 28 states by water. If all our channels are open, we can access 28 states by water. So, like I did say in my opening comments, it's about our decision as a people. And that's why some of us are very excited with the coming on stream of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. Because what that has proven now is that government is determined. There is a determination to open up this channel, tap the resources for the benefit of our people. So we're very excited about it. And when you talk about transportation, I am one of those who have consistently said that there is a need for us to develop this sector, because all over the world, bulk cargo, liquid cargo are usually moved by water, not by road. Okay, I tried to do a simple analogy. About 60% of the containers that come into this country, either through Lagos or through Port Harcourt, end up in the southeast. And if, for example, it's 1 million containers that come, or 2 million or 3 million containers that come, what that translates to is that 2 million trailers, in fact 4 million trailers will be on the road. 2 million taking the containers and 2 million taking back the empties, back to either Lagos or Port Harcourt from where it has come from. So, and you see that our roads are not designed to carry such weights. So we find that this usage of these roads affects our infrastructure. And then that means that we keep spending money to rebuild these roads. We keep investing resources to get these roads to be in constant use, whereas the resources we invest in these roads can be used for other areas of our developmental program. So there's quite a lot to gain in the transport sector. When you talk about our nation, our country, because we can move from point A to point B. Within the inland waterways today, you find new ports being developed, new jetties being built. All what we are doing is to improve on interconnectivity. And the moment we achieve that, get our channels open, dredge them open, and then they are free flow for easy navigation. The moment we're able to address this and address the little challenges we have, there's enormous resources that can be gained in that process. I'm also happy that those who spoke after I did had talked about the benefit of the tourism ecosystem. There's quite a lot we can gain. There's quite a lot we can benefit by the time we explore in full terms the benefits of the blue economy, because there's quite a lot we can gain as a people. By the time we make the needed investment, provide the needed infrastructure in places where they are needed, I can guarantee you that the returns will be so enormous that other advantages, other issues, other challenges like unemployment and things will be adequately addressed.
Energy is another bit we have talked about, the energy sector, and of course everyone would readily point to that and see what are the potential that a blue economy or that can be derived from marine
vis-a-vis energy?
Yes.
Yes. As rightly observed and pointed out, the Marine Ministry possesses huge potential for the nation. And one area that Nigeria intends to develop in a very accelerated state, it's the energy sector. You recall that huge resources in terms of pipelines, in terms of international trade, go through the waters. And today we are talking about blue economy, we are projecting a situation where the energy sector can benefit from it. And how, if you may wish to ask me, we're talking about wind energy. Before now, you cannot talk about renewable energy in Nigeria because we are a monolithic economy depending on oil and gas. But today, the stress in that sector has galvanized the thinking that we need to diversify energy resource base to consider other renewable energy sources such as wind energy, which ocean can provide for us. As you rightly observe, 24 states are coastal states, and each of them can optimize the available waters or ocean to develop and wind energy. All we need to do is to get the technology to construct wind turbines. And we're doing the Germany, Denmark, France, and some other European countries also generate electricity through wind energy, and we can do it. So the blue economy, which encompasses, which has been carved out now, will help us to provide this. And apart from that, you see that our oceans are polluted. Most of the waterways are polluted, making it difficult for marine transportation. And so this sector will now look inwards to see how we can clean up our waterways to ensure free transportation process. Because transporting goods and services on our roads has caused a lot of problems. And so marine transportation is another way to improve our economy. And I'm sure that if all the resources are optimized, we are almost there.
You're a professor of energy and
Yes.
comparative environmental law.
Yes, sir.
And once you begin to talk about the blue economy and marine activities, one of the issues that will come to mind readily would be environmental issues.
Yes.
Right. Already, we've had to cope with such environmental matters emanating from oil exploration and the oil and gas economy. What are we looking ahead as we begin to put in place a marine and blue economy so as to avoid the pitfalls of what happened with oil and gas?
Yeah, the first thing is, well, the government has set up a ministry for blue economy. The next thing that ought to follow immediately is to get the legislation put in place. Get up the laws, send it to the National Assembly to articulate all the sectors that form the blue economy and then give them teeth. That's the first thing. And then, having said that, because there is no smoke without fire, if you like, there is no free lunch. And these things will come with some negativities and externalities, such as pollution, such as managing them, and all of that. And we need laws, we need policies to get them right. So having thought out the need for a blue economy, ministry or whatever, we now need legislation to back it up. We need policy framework, and then we need political will, because sometimes you can leave it out, let it just go. But we need government to stand by the decision made to carve out an independent ministry to aggregate all the sectoral, departments, that form the blue economy, from Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Agri, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Petroleum. Government will synergize all of them into a holistic department or ministry, and then make sure there is a law to back them up. Well, that's all we need, and it's a doable thing. We can do it.
Right. Okay, let's go. Let's return to Dr. Bashir Jamu in Lagos, our Lagos studio, and the figures that we have heard from different sources are really, really huge. You've just said that it used to be 1.5 trillion of what the marine resources can bring in, and you're thinking what percentage of that Nigeria can have, even though you say 1.5 is no longer the figure that the world is looking at 2.5 trillion naira, and imagining what percentage of that can accrue to Nigeria. Some have said from what we have, which is untapped, we're looking at some close to $300 billion. certainly that would require huge investments. As this ministry settles down, what are your thoughts? What are you looking at? What are the things that you say, look, this is the way to go, this is how we drive it, including, of course, the initial investments, and also so many have talked about a private sector driven marine economy.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Let me start with the current status of blue economy. Even though blue economy is a new phenomenon, in the sense that it started in 2012 in Rio de Janeiro when the United Nations made and discussed the issue of sustainable development. And that was when the concept of the blue economy started. Blue economy has been around us, but what we are discussing now is the issue of concentrations and examinations of each sector and see what we can be able to maximize and tap. Now, if you look at our oceans, 72% of the size of the world is water. And what are we doing with this water? Do we know what is in and around the water? Do we actually tap all we have in and around the water? Do we understand what is there in the water that we can make use? Certainly, the way we misuse our own seas and ocean, we don't use it in like manner. When we go back to the seabed, today statistics show that more than 90% of what we have under our seabed, we are yet to maximize the benefit of it. Out of over 22.2 million species that we have in our own oceans, also 90% we are yet to trace what are those species. So now with the marine economy, as you asked, Mr. Cyril, it's left for us to take a closer look and examine each sector. The professor and my colleague made mention different areas. Now, if you look at transportation, shipping transportation, which account of 80% of our goods and services being transported through shipping transportation, and is expected to double in the year 2030. What are we doing? Today, Cyril, in Nigeria, you hardly count 50 Nigerian flag vessel ocean going. We have it very minimal, but approximately we hardly find 50 ships in our own shore. Today, we are no longer allowing government resources, scarce resources, to be invested into business. All the government needs to do is to provide the enabling environment. So what we are trying to do now is to examine each sector and see how it flares. And then we prioritize which sector and which sector we will have to develop. Before now, there was a conference on blue economy in 2018, jointly championed by Kenya and Japan, where they discussed the issue of blue economy. Nigeria was part of that conference. And when we came back, The agency wrote a memo to then Mr. President requesting how we can key in and develop our own blue economy. Approval was granted, I think sometimes in 2021, and a committee was formed to drive the issue of blue economy. The then Vice President was the chairman, and all the sectors, they were co-opted, and a thematic session was formed. Now with the new ministry, this become more easier, because that is the duty of the ministry, to ensure they drive the issues of these sectors, harness them and put them together, and then analyze how we can develop each sector. We look at the marine environment management, as you said, Professor, is very vast there. The issue of greenhouse emission is there. The issue of fishing and aquaculture. Cereal fishing used to provide second largest income in the Nigerian economy in those days, before the advent of oil. Today, we don't have up to 1% of fishing trawlers that can fish in our own territorial water. Even the fish that you are going to use on your table, today you will have to use our own scarce foreign exchange to import those fish. With the advent of this blue economy, we will have to screen the fishing industry, see what we can do to improve the well-being, the technologies that we have to use for the fishing, to find fishing trawlers, to provide enabling environment for the Nigerians to own fishing trawlers, and then strategize and see the level how we can effectively use whatever we harness from the fishing industry to establish an industry that can prepare us up to the level of exporting this fish back to our own track as it used to be before. So also when you go to aquaculture, when you go to the renewable energies that Professor mentioned, then you look at ship repairs, ship building, fleet expansion, and foundries. So many things like this, each area must be looked into before you get to the major one. Even the oil and gas is part of that. Now, the managing director of Inland Waterways testified that 28 states, they can be accessed through our own inland waterways. Mr. Cyril, whatever we have in our own oceans and seas, whatever we can drive and get, whatever can survive in those oceans and seas can survive in inland waterways. Today, what is the rate of exploration and utilization of our own inland waterways in terms of resources? Almost zero level. Shows transportation. When you are in Dubai now, you go to Marina, you find them with the constructed small shuttle ships. You go on board the ship for sightseeing. You meet restaurant, you spend your meager resources in terms of foreign exchange. Before you know, it's a short trip, you spend huge amount of money. What are we doing in order to build capacity in such areas? What are we doing to see how we can introduce the issues of small ferries or bigger ferries also, like hotels, that can move around the African continent, that can move our own regional areas? Many Nigerians now, you ask them how many countries you traveled in the world, they will mention 90% Europe, America, South America, and Scandinavian countries. But common Benin Republic here, they not have been there. So you sit down, we sit down and see what enabling environment can we provide to see how we can build that. The issue of tourism, maritime tourism, you go to Bar Beach, you meet people entertaining the people enjoying themselves around the Bar Beach as a simple language. You organize those entertainers, put them in one place, tag them. Whatever you want to use among those entertainers, you book them, you pay for the price. Instead of them to come and start utilizing their own talent, and at the end of the day, they behave like a beggars collecting. You streamline it, organize it in such a way that we will make maximum use of whatever a tourist want to use. It's estimated 41 nations is being visited annually, internationally, for tourism. So where do we place Nigeria in terms of maritime tourism? And this and so many alike. Now, you look at yourself, Mr. Cyril. Today you have a car and you want to buy fuel. You go to the filling station. You know where to get the fuel. Today in Nigeria, we have an estimated 1,110 vessels visiting our own territorial waters. Most of these vessels are not our own, are foreign-based vessels. Where do they bunker? Which sector? They look into the bunkering of our own ships that do come, or we do utilize even within our coastal waters. You find out that our foreign companies are the one, multinational oil companies, they are the one providing these services. When we have millions of dollars sector. So today, those are the areas that we will have to sit down and examine and see how we can harness those resources for the Nigerian use and for use development in terms of employment generations. Apart from that, you look at the ship repairs. Today, even those who have ships, Nigerians, they used to go to Benin Republic, Ghana, Togo, sometimes even up to Turkey to repair their ships. The ship repair industry is becoming too backward. Those that are alive, they cannot repair ships optimally. The only shipbuilding that you can boast today is Niger Dock, Poma Niger Dock, and they are there now. If you go and check their register, they are almost booked throughout the year. We have to look at all this, examine them, and see how we can provide the enabling environment for us to tap the resources. Mr. Series, the issue of blue economy in Nigeria, for me, it has come to stay, and I believe that sky is our limit in Nigeria, and we will make sure that we maximize that opportunity given to us by Mr. President within shortest possible time. Within the next 6 months, we'll begin to see changes in terms of employment generation within the Maritime and Blue Economy Ministry.
All right. Thank you so much. Pretty comprehensive. Let's flip over to Engineer Ilori. You know, as Dr. Bashir Jamo was speaking, I just went down memory lane and thought about so many things. He talked about ships, shipping, and all that, and I just seem to recall how Nigeria's own national shipping line in the 90s, and that was it. And towards the end of his contribution there, he also spoke of ship repairs, and I also I remember Niger Dock and how vibrant those places were now. And these are things that a lot of Nigerians would say, if there had been consistent policies and the political will over the years, they would be far, 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 far from where they are today. So what are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Cyril. Dr. Jamo has gone down memory lane and identified some of those areas that we professionals in the industry have been lamenting about over the years. Now, thank you for this president who has taken the political initiative to address some of these issues. Now, the maritime industry and maritime economy, or the blue economy, stands on three tripods: the economic development, the political development, and the technical development. Now, we can't go anywhere without addressing these three tripods. If you do one without the other, it's going to collapse. Now, Nigeria is a country where we have many laws, many acts, many reports, some gathering dust all over the place. But the implementation is the issue. So when we begin to implement some of these things, we will find out that the blue economy will fly. Without addressing the technical development, the economic development, and the integration of the political will, then we cannot go very far. And this is one of the things that we need to say to the minister that's going to drive the marine economy. Yes, we can do it. We have experts who can do it. I mean, it's just sad that Nigeria developed the manpower, and then other nations will take advantage of our experts. So it's time for us now to, as like Dr. Jamo said, to integrate all our resources to make sure that the maritime industry drives the economy. If you go to China today, the water transportation drives that economy. If you go to Europe, ditto, because you find the development of the industries along the waterways, along the coast, so that you leave your inland road network purely for human traffic. But in Nigeria, you find that we develop industries around the road network. What happens? The big trucks, the products of the industries, they rapidly destroy those roads. And think of the billions that we spend on road development. So we need to have a change of mindset so that we use the maritime industry, maritime waterways, transportation to drive the development of our economy. Thank you for Mr. President. We can do it, but we need to put our heads together, draw on the resources of our expertise, develop new expertise so that it can be a technologically driven industry. And there's the issue of funding. Where would the fund come from? That's another issue, because we know that today the government doesn't have the money. So we need to consider how we are going to fund the development of this maritime economy. Now, we have talked about resources and we have talked about opportunities. Then, is it not about time that Nigeria has its own maritime development bank, as done in other nations? Because now that we know there are opportunities there, investors want to put their money there. And those who have bankable industry, bankable proposals, can go to the Maritime Development Bank without necessarily putting pressure on the hard-earned national resources that can be used to provide hospitals, education, you name it. Because the government should not be in the business of investing in a business. No. Then let us look at it and then try to develop a proper funding arrangement for the maritime economy. I remember the 8th Senate or the 7th Senate tried very hard to have a maritime development bank, but it never saw the light of the day. But now that we have a maritime ministry, there's a voice for the industry directly at the economic federal FEC. then you can begin to articulate how we are going to fund it, because we can talk about billions of jobs, but you need to be able to have the industries that will run these jobs.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. In addition to the discussion in the studio, we have a number of reports. We'll take the first one of those reports here now from Port Harcourt.
The global blue economy is estimated to worth $1.5 trillion annually, with Africa's potential valued at about $300 billion if adequately harnessed. South of the country, no doubt, is endowed with the natural water bodies to support a thriving marine and blue economy outside oil and gas, which it is known for.
NPA Port Harcourt, NPA Warri, most of them are like moribund. And you see that in Lagos, there is a traffic jam, there is a container demurrage every time within that area. How come that we have port here and it's not being utilized?
Power generation, fishing, ocean bed minerals, coastal leisure, tourism, shipping, and other ventures are gold mines stakeholders identified are yet to be harnessed.
There are mineral resources that are embedded at the bed of the ocean that can be harnessed, for several things, for power generation, for food, aqua life, that can be utilized for pharmaceutical. There are countries that depend solely on their marine resources, and Nigeria can actually become one of that.
The creation of Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy for critical stakeholders is a bold step of the Nigerian government to boost involvement in this thriving global venture. For marine operators, the nation's policymakers have a huge responsibility to address some bottlenecks that have affected ease of doing business, especially for the eastern ports, and in turn stimulate increased economic activities.
Stuff blue economy or what? Should put his eyes on ground and make sure that his structure, both the customs, and make them to be accountable. He restructure the NPA, he restructure the MASA, because there are 3 agencies that are handling the marine sector, where the revenue is coming from. The operators, or those that are managing them, yes, are making it difficult for the importers here.
Experts insist that the best way to go is to restructure the sector and ensure the decentralization of vessel movement across ports in Nigeria to help maximize the inherent benefits.
All right, we'll take a short break at this point in time. When we return, the phone lines will be open and you can join in the conversation. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Talk show.
Still talking about the potential of the blue and marine economy on NTA Tuesday Live. This part of the program is when you can get to join in the conversation. The numbers will be on your screen. The phone lines will be open any moment from now. You can take advantage of those lines and call in and air your views on the subject matter. We say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point. Keep it short and simple so others can also get on the platform and air their views. And we ask you not to bother too much about the greetings. It's just a mere hello would do, just hello. And you go right ahead with your contribution. So thank you so much. We have another report, this time from Awka.
Related to oceans, seas, and other bodies of water such as fisheries, aquaculture, maritime transport, renewable energy, tourism, and mineral resources, while reducing the country's over-reliance on crude oil. In Anambra State is the River Niger, said to be the 3rd longest river in Africa and one of the 15 longest in the world, reaching about 4,200 kilometers from the interior to the Atlantic. The river is said to have potential capable of generating power promoting national integration, productivity, creating jobs, business opportunities, and livelihood for many if properly harnessed.
River Niger moves into the Atlantic Ocean, and you have the Orash River, which connects. So Anambra State is infiltrated with the tributaries of the Niger, also making its way. And when the marine economy is fully activated, the best benefits will be gotten through those tributaries. So Anambra State is well positioned to benefit essentially from it.
40% of world population is living around ocean and riverine area, and we can harness the potential from that natural resources. And I think that the president has looked inward and know that through our oceans and the rivers that we can make a very big profit that will benefit the economy and then employ a larger number of youths.
Marine economy, our blue economy, will help Nigeria because we can fishes, all these fishes. Some animals are living in the water, and if you can develop it positively, it will help the nation.
For the country to create the wealth and jobs needed to turn the economic situation around, there is need to develop new deep sea ports to create a network of modern ports that can improve the turnaround time of vessels coming to Nigeria and further help to decongest the existing ones.
All right, that report from Oka. And still talking about the low-hanging fruits which Dr. Bashir Jamus spoke about. We had looked at a bit of transportation. I want to take it a little bit further with water transportation. In the last report, the need for more ports was highlighted, and even where you develop more deep sea ports, we talk about the inland water transportation. We did say, of course, that 28 states can be accessed. I remember as a boy growing up, I remember the role that Baru used to play, and that's also one area that also would require attention. So take us through the plans to develop these ports so as to decongest those places you have now, which are a huge challenge. And now that there is a standalone ministry, how quickly do you think things can get started?
You see, it's about the political will. And the president has demonstrated it by the creation of an independent ministry to handle the issue of marine, maritime, and the blue economy. So the political will is there. But like my colleague Bashir did say, there is need for us to develop new ports. As we speak now, Onitsha River Port is completed, concession. Baro River Port, world class, completed. We have ongoing construction in Lokoja. We've not completed that. There's also ongoing construction in Oguta. We've not completed that. We just commenced the process of putting up another inland port somewhere in Makurdi. So you find out that there is need, but we are augmenting these needs by providing jetties in very strategic locations across the country so that we can improve on interconnectivity. So there is the will, there is also the determination. But like Emmanuel Ilori did rightly say, the resources required to do this may not be available. So that is why today we are laying emphasis on PPP arrangements, getting the private sector involved. Like I did say earlier, Onitsha River Port, for example, is our poster boy. We have commissioned and concessioned it. Okay, the concessioning process for Baro is on course. There are also solicited proposals for the concessioning of even these ports that are not yet completed. That does not stop us from doing what we are expected to do. New jetties are being built in specific locations across the country because we want to develop the proper interconnectivity, so that, for example, if the big vessels arrive in the deep seaports like we have in the country, arrive at the other ports we have in the coastal line, barges can move these consignments they've come with to the inland ports. We can also take away agricultural produce, items that are produced locally from our inland locations, and then bring them to the ports for possible export. So there is every need for that. And with the coming of the Marine and Blue Economy Ministry, there is a conviction, there is a strong belief that emphasis will be laid in developing the infrastructure within this sector to enable interconnectivity, and multimodal means of transportation. So it's quite clear. We know where we want to be.
And as was mentioned earlier on, there had been need for huge investments in this sector.
Yes, correct.
Of course, hardly any Nigerian today who doesn't know the state of the country's finances, and it's been pushed that the best way is through the private sector, the private sector. Okay, and so this is what we'll be asking Prof to comment on right after we take this call from George, who's calling in from Bayelsa. George from Bayelsa, hello. Is George on the line?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Stoba. My question actually is directed to the Nimasa boss. From 2020, I've been trying to reach him. That was after the COVID lockdown and all of that. And my engagement with the maritime sector, mostly NIMATA and the Federal Ministry of Transport, is as a result of the Global Maritime Security Conference that was held here in Abuja in 2019. In the course of that event, we had a communique, and in that communique, we're actually looking at measures to curb maritime crimes in the Gulf of Guinea from the Niger Delta territory or terrain. And in the course of that event which we had in 2019, we concluded in approaching or mitigating these maritime crimes in the South-South Niger Delta region over the Gulf of Guinea through stick and carrot approach. And vividly, I must tell you that I was the one that suggested in that conference that we should employ the carrot approach, because what is going on in the Niger Delta region, which is affecting the blue economy of our nation, is as a result of the level of unemployment ratio and all of that. And we all agreed to engage in these two measures to curb this crime. But up till now, nothing has been done. I wrote series of letters across to Ministry of Transport and NIMATA. I was even invited to NIMATA, I think the resource center. I met with one of their directors, but unfortunately, the very person they addressed me to meet was completely not even aware of the Global Maritime Security Conference communique that was reached at the end of the day. And that alone caused my journey to Lagos to be full-time. And as it stands now, I want to ask the DG of NIMATA, what are we doing? What are we going to do about this communique that was entered? Because now we are coming, we've advanced to a point where we are having a blue economy, a Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. Definitely, you know, at this level, there is a room for advancement or diversification of economy into the blue environment. So, and you know that there are persons living, this coastal community dwellers living along our coast and all of that. And they are really going through a lot of hell. A lot of things going on out there. And again, I want to say, the mangrove forest we have there, these oil spillages destroy this mangrove forest. And this mangrove forest, they have very strong importance in defending our country from ocean surges, typhoon, tsunami, and all of them. But this ecosystem we have are undergoing a lot of threat and all of that. So I will put my question again before the DG of Nemasa.
Okay. Right, you already have, and certainly security has a bearing on the development of a blue economy, of course. But Dr. Jamo must have heard you here, and he will link that up with his answer. Yes.
I would like to appreciate my friend from Bayelsa. I know him very well. And he asked, what are we doing about the communique? We have been implementing the communique. You will agree with me, from the year 2001 to date, we have been experiencing a very good calm water, with 2022 and 2023 zero piracy attack. These are combinations of approach that we put, which includes what you mentioned, carrot and stick approach. In Nemasa, we are not arm-carrying officers. We do it in conjunction with the Nigerian Navy. The Nigerian Navy takes care of kinetic approach to maritime insecurity, while Nemasa take care of non-kinetic approach to security. And what is non-kinetic approach? Any approach that will do a kind of soft touch in terms of addressing the problems of insecurity, meaning that guns, bullets, grenades will not help in addressing the maritime insecurity. So we continue to conduct research from the outcome of that communique to get root to the basis and the reasons why the increase in maritime insecurity at that time. And part of the findings was 1, poverty, 2, lack of education, 3, lack of employment, and 4, the issues of understanding of communities in the Niger Delta. Now let me start with the last one, the understanding of the community of Niger Delta. What we did, we established a very strong key intelligence network, and whatever findings we get, we share it with our own counterpart, the Nigerian Navy, who takes care of the kinetic approach. And as you are aware, we also commissioned the Deep Blue project, which has land, air, and sea approach in terms of responses of any attack that we have in our own territorial waters. Okay. Apart from over 600 personnel of Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Air Force, and then Nigerian Army, with Nigerian DSS and Civil Defense. We have what we call Communication and Control Center, C4I, where all the platforms used to key into that particular control center, and that helped us in curbing that. We didn't stop at that. We continued to increase the number of training we have in National CPRS development programs. We have been training people, I think, between 2000 and 2020 to date. We increased the number of the people that we train abroad, including those from Niger Delta, from
DG Nemasa,
2041.
Well, DG Nemasa, what we are going to do is you have all those figures, and perhaps just before we round off this program, we'll give you another opportunity to extend it. What George from Bayelsa raised was something that could impact the development of the blue economy. You talked about maritime crime and criminality, and you have just outlined what you have been doing to fix all that. So we'll return to it in a moment. We do have a lot of callers on the line now, so we'll ask you to just pause a while. Let's go to John, who's calling in from Abuja now. Hello, John.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Because I'm watching you people, because I wanted to say something just like what the other man said. If in this issue of housing refinery, housing relays, all this getting the point, what did they call it, in Anambra, Seaport, or what did they call it? This is not what we're supposed to be discussing about for now. And what they need to do now is, when they want to do something, let them just do it and conclude it and start working the field. It's not what you say, well, you do this, you do that. At the end of the day, nothing. Okay, now they're measuring what they will do, where they will work, what they're going to do with Benue or Anambra or Kogi State. At the end of the day, what happened? The same thing goes on.
All right, John, there is a new ministry. John, if you're listening to us, and the topic tonight is the potential of the marine and blue economy. So some of the things you're hearing tonight are areas that will be developed under the ambit of this new ministry as to generate the benefits of a blue and marine economy for Nigeria, which for all these years has just been dependent on oil. So I can understand your feeling about thinking they're talking about things that will be done. In any case, the discussions have to go on to properly identify. So we have Samuel, who's calling in from Port Harcourt. Samuel from Port Harcourt, go ahead.
Yes, please. What I want to say, I love the new ministry that is inaugurated by the federal government, though we are aware that similar things have been transpiring in the past. But what I want to contribute is that the nation or the key players concerning this maritime and the blue economy should be holistic and fair to all regions, so that at the end of the tunnel, the country will grow holistically. Because if you watch, having a retrospective view of some promises in some areas, like Oguta side, what I can say, Oguta Lake, and some other areas within this territory and other areas. You people, or can I say the government in the past, have been paying lip service. I will be glad if there will be people in the helm of affairs who will be straightforward, who will be truthful in looking into some other areas of the country. If we are to come out plain, if we are to come out as a nation, if we are to come out holistically to make achievements in the area of marine and blue economy that will benefit the entire nation. We should not restrict it to certain regions, forgetting certain regions. Whereby if an approval is given for anything to be built in certain regions, they will be neglected or abandoned at the end. If the country will be united in purpose, I think we will achieve more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Well, again, the matter at hand is harnessing the potential of a marine and blue economy. And yes, it's one that will generate a lot of interest. And given a lot of things that had happened in the past, some Nigerians are expressing some form of worry about how things will run this time. And that's exactly why we have these panelists here who are speaking to the subject matter and saying, how will this new ministry run and what are the best ways to maximize the benefits from what it has to offer? But let's take this call from Godwin, who's calling in from Abuja here. Godwin from Abuja.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody. This new ministry that has been called out, the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, is a very, very big ministry. I think one of the guests in the House stated the legislature aspect of it, because we have like 6 to 7 ministries that are working with this ministry. So, and there should be a legislation so that we should not always have an overlap of responsibility and duty. The legislature will map out every ministry's responsibility and how, because no ministry can work on its own. The Blue Economy Ministry is not a ministry that is standing on its own. It's going to be a different ministry. Even the Ministry of the Poverty Alleviation, Ministry of Labor and Employment, all these ministries will come together. And then when there is legislation, so that people don't begin to say, okay, you are overlapping. And then I tell you, this alone can sustain this nation, and then we will not be talking about the over-dependence on the oil and gas sector. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, and I believe Nigeria will be great again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Godwin. All right. So let's get back to Dr. Bashir Jamo now, and tying up the last bits of the question by George from Bayelsa, which has to do with bringing down the rate of maritime crime to the barest minimum. Now, Dr. Jamo, in the first part of your answer, you did say that the study you carried out showed that a lot of things were happening as a result of poverty and unemployment. Now, the development of a blue economy it has great potential to address the issue of unemployment and poverty, which in itself will bring down the rate of crime.
Yes, Mr. Cyril, I watched a clip they conducted an interview with me shortly when we started this program, and I did mention that we are ready for the blue economy, and interestingly, at that time, I wasn't aware that we are going to have a maritime and blue economy ministry. So what I'm trying to say is that so far, all the components of blue economy has been put in place by the Ministry of Transportations before the separation of the marine and blue economy, because we developed blue economy strategy for our own sector. The last speaker from Abuja made mention, yes, we have to bring all other sectors together. And that's one of the challenges that we are going to face, and I believe we discussed that with the Honorable Minister yesterday. We will have to map out the strategy of bringing all the sectors that are supposed to be together. And I mentioned in one of the time that I was talking that we have to examine each sector separately and see how that sector played, and then where we are now and where do we want to go. What are the challenges, what are the gaps that we are going to do? So part of his questions is the issue of bridging the gap And in terms of employment generation, as I mentioned earlier, like the 6 geopolitical zones, we try to build skill acquisition centers where we can train younger generations. Some of the skill acquisition centers, they are almost 80%. That is the one that we 100% completed. Each zone in the country, we build one. And we build maritime training institution one in each of the zones of the nation. And in so doing, the issue of unemployment and then the issue of lack of education, we are now dealing with it gradually, one by one.
Okay.
So other employment generations, we are just about to deploy our own modular floating dock. That is the ship repairs. We are now trying to see how we can address the issue of scarcity of ship repairs company. And we're making some arrangement to see, we have PPP arrangement of building small crafts in this country with the Korean Samsung and Hyundai. Very soon we will now have to seal that deal, especially now with the Blue Economy Ministry. I think all we need to do is to place more emphasis in trying to prioritize this action one thing at a time. As we achieve it, we move to another stage.
All right, thank you
very
so
much.
Yeah, we'll return to you in a moment. We have another caller on the line, Kenneth, calling in from Lagos. Hello, Kenneth.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. This Kenneth, I need to make a contribution. I need to make a contribution on this matter. You see, God is always answering our prayers. Our problem in this country is that 99% of our leaders, they don't have something upstairs. I'm sorry to say this. As a nuclear engineer in Korea, I studied in North Korea. 99% of all the nuclear apparatus you see up in the air, none of them is being carried on the road or by air. It's by waters. We carry them by waters. What I'm trying to tell Nigerians now, if this blue marine takes off, Nigeria is going to make about 35 trillion monthly. $35 trillion monthly. Because Nigeria has no less than 644 minerals inside our waters. And there's only the unappointment issue. Unappointment issue. Our leaders always make mistakes and appoint to wrong hands to be our ministers and the Director General. To the glory of God, we have somebody that has something upstairs now in the marine world. That DG, Nemasa, that DG Nemasa is supposed to be minister for that blue marine district. He has something upstairs. He knows what it is. He knows what it is. Let me give you a reference. In France is not up to 20 million people in population. France, they are the manufacturers of the biggest aircraft in the world. The pass, when they build it, they wanted to cross it by road. It wasn't possible. They go by water. It wasn't possible because of getting that the money they use. They have to break a bridge that cost them $14 million. That's their sense of the aircraft. So please, I pray they're going to advise this, Mr. President. Let me use this in a matter of the Minister for Human.
Okay. Well.
14 trillion every month. $14 trillion every month. That's what we're going to generate from this thing. We cannot be beating hand around carrying no money to wait around the give charlatans. They're wasting our money.
All right, thank you so much.
I'm tired of all these things.
Thank you so much, Kenneth, for your contribution. Well, back here in the studio, Prof. Well, people are expressing concerns that Nigeria just has to get it right this time around, and the fears are born out of hopes in the past that had been dashed. Now it says to renew hope. And so, expectedly, Nigerians would be expressing concerns about getting it right. Okay. Just before you take on that, let's take this call from Chijoke. Chijoke from Abuja. Please turn down the volume of your TV set. Hello, Chijoke. All right, we'll have to call back later on. Yes, Prof.
Yes, getting it right, we must get it right. First, we have to start with getting a national policy for blue economy. That's the way to go. Get a national policy for blue economy, and thereafter deepen capacity development and investment in the sector. And all of this must be premised on a good law, solid law to back up the sector. You know, and we shouldn't make the mistake or repeat the mistake we had in the oil and gas industry, or we made in the oil and gas industry, where we allowed foreign investment to dominate the sector. The foreign companies were vertically integrated in the sense that all aspects of the oil and gas industry were in the hands of the IOCs. So if you allow this brand new ministry not to be properly regulated, you allow foreign investors to take over. I do not see any reason why government should be engaged in tourism. We need to deregulate the sector and allow private sector to take over. So this law must set out this clearly to allow private sectors to come in to deal with the tourism sector.
Well, speaking of this, let me put this question to Engineer Emmanuel Ilori. Yes. And Prof here is saying we should be careful that international organizations do not come and take over and dominate and set the tone and the pace for everything here. But this question should be relevant here. Do you see a capacity in this field within this country?
Thank you very much, Cyril. This has been a perennial problem with the Nigerian, I think I would say is a Nigerian issue. We have skills necessary to develop our own industries, the maritime sector inclusive. But the political will, I think the tendency of Nigerians to think everything foreign is good and everything indigenous is bad. That should be one of the things we need to begin to address. If foreign countries take our skill sets and develop their own country, and then we have these skill sets abundant in Nigeria and we do not utilize them, then what is going to happen? The tendency of Nigeria to try to denigrate our own homegrown or our own national skills is very, very bad. Now, in terms of regulation, take the oil sector for example. We have the Nigerian Local Content Development Board, and I always refer to that. Very Nigerian dominated, and they have been trying to regulate that oil sector using Nigerian skill sets. So we need to develop our own capacity so that the foreigners do not come to tell us what to do. The IOCs came here and they went to bed with them, and at the end of it, Nigeria is worse for it. The maritime sector ditto, where, I mean, Dr. Jam was talking about, we are lucky if you have 50 foreign vessels in Nigeria. The trade is dominated by foreigners. We're not going to develop the maritime ministry by not allowing the indigenous players to take part. But having said that, they must have necessary standard. The maritime sector is a global sector that is governed by global regulations. So until we develop the global standard, they will continue to have these challenges. Some of the vessels we have on our waters today, they do not meet global best standards. And then that means that business is not going to operate in the vacuum. They want to have good standard vessels to carry their operations. We don't want to destroy our environment by employing substandard vessels or substandard industry. So there's an issue there that the new ministry needs to address in terms of regulation development, regulation compliance, regulation implementation. Take the airline industry, for example. If you remember, there used to be a time when planes were falling down in the skies just like that. And then they went to the drawing board and ensured that they have proper regulations that govern the airline industry. And we have seen development in that aspect. So we should not shy away from making sure that we have sound technical regulations that will govern our industry. Then you can see the industry soar and to achieve what we intend to achieve in terms of the maritime economy.
All right, and initially when we spoke, you talked about, we raised the issue of funding, and you want to for a private sector, a deep involvement by the private sector, seeing that the funds for this country to put into investing to reap the benefits of this sector are simply not there. So as you go for the private, of course, the issue of regulation always comes in everything we mentioned here. As we go for a private sector driven blue economy, what would be your recommendations?
I think, like I said, a national maritime development bank, I believe, will be a way to go, because we have all identified various opportunities, various potentials in this sector. And the bank has always found a way to chase profit. But as long as it is profitable industry and a profitable investment, it is very, very important. Because if you go and put government money in these ventures, of course, it's going to go down the road. But if you have a well-structured maritime development bank where you and I can go and present my proposal and they will fund it, then we can ensure that we're having a profitable maritime industry. And that is the key issue, because the government is not in business, shouldn't be in business running businesses. Leave the businesses to the experts, including banks, including financiers, including entrepreneurs. Then we can then have a profitable maritime industry. And that is where it's done in advanced countries. We put a funding system in place and for sure it's going to develop. And that's my recommendation.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. We'll return to you, Dr. George Mogalu. Yes, still on the subject of private sector participation and for instance, inland water transportation, a key aspect which I keep returning to, given what you might call, industry watchers will say, right now, a lot needs to be done.
A lot. All right. When my colleagues were speaking, they talked about deregulating a sector. One thing deregulation does is that it encourages competition. And then you must make it in such a way to encourage participation, to encourage private sector players to come in. And when you're talking about getting private sector players to come in, you must have guarantees for security of investment. You must create an enabling environment to encourage involvement of private sector players and guarantee there must be security of investment, key, and there must be guaranteed profitability. You see, if you regulate a sector to the extent that you don't encourage competition, you don't provide guarantees, the needed guarantees, nobody will invest in it. The maritime sector today in Nigeria, truth be told, is a virgin area that is very, if properly developed, will guarantee investment and profitability. Recall when in this country, when the issue of mobile phones came in. Don't forget that it was deregulated. It was thrown open. There was guarantees. And then foreign investors came in. As at the time they started, it was Econet that came in from South Africa. It was MTN that came from South Africa. In fact, the first indigenous telecom player is Glo. And when Glo now came in, Glo introduced specific areas that encouraged the growth in that sector. One thing that happened was that competition became high. You know that at a point in this country, for you to buy a line, you're talking about spending 200, 300,000 to get a line. You're not talking about the phone yet. But in the present day Nigeria, telecom companies pay you, give you the line, give you credit free to encourage you to play along with them. And that's exactly what has to be done with the maritime sector. Government cannot fund it. That is the truth. Because the resources available to government is limited. So everything must be done to encourage private sector participation. Like Prof said, the laws have to be clearly spelled out. The ethics, the guidelines must be clearly spelled out. The guarantees must be clearly spelled out so that investors will now come in. Now, moving it down to the inland waterway sector. We have engaged some groups, for example, that are talking about doing massive capital dredging from the upper Benue down to the lower Niger up to the Atlantic. There are two organizations, one is foreign, one is both foreign and local, coming together to see how we can get them to do this dredging. Because when you talk about capital dredging, you're talking about massive investment running into billions. So if they are ready to do it with their resources and then recoup their money in the course of their investment, why not? So channels are open. Like I did say initially when I was speaking here, I told you there are ports that we are building now, but we are constrained by funding. That is the truth. And then we are discussing with organizations that have submitted unsolicited proposals to take over these ports, complete them, run them, and recover their investment. So once the guarantees are provided, we create the enabling environment for them. So what government needs to do is that government has to create the enabling environment to get these private sector players to participate fully. And with their involvement, one, it comes with funding, it comes with infusion of expertise. Because they're in a position to pay for the right persons they need to drive the industry. So we need to encourage private sector players. There is no way we can grow this industry without getting private sector players. Even when Dr. Jomo was talking about the dry dock that they are trying to install, he talked about getting private sector players to participate with them. We need to encourage them. Today, we have some of them working. I made a mention to you about the Onitsha River Port, for example, that we concession. We got in a private sector player, an organization called Universal Elision. They are partnering with Port of Antwerp. Today in Onitsha, you have the management team from Port of Antwerp managing the port. Government is getting our money because we concessioned it for 30 years for them to operate and then transfer it back to us. And they're going to pay the federal government over 30 billion. So we're trying to explore the same process to even get other organizations that are interested in the maritime sector, like ferry transport. There's an American firm we are talking with now. They are trying to bring in ferries to run within our waterways, but the issue there around it is the issue of security. They keep asking you, what is the security guarantee to make sure that we bring these vessels and they operate? And we are partnering with Navy. NIWA as an organization, as an authority, we have our own police, but it may not be enough to meet up our security challenge. So we are partnering with both the Navy, the Army, and then the Marine Police, because the Marine Police is different from the NIWA police. So we are partnering with every one of them because we have a common agenda. And that is, what do we do to make the waterways safe and secure and guarantee all year-round navigability? And these are the areas we're looking at.
Just to add something.
Yes.
There. Yeah, you see, when we talk about indigenous participation and local development, we're not saying that we are not going to engage the foreigners to invest, because the idea here is to act locally and think globally. The maritime sector is a globalized sector. That is to say that foreign issues, international laws will have to come to play. And Nigeria, being a signatory to United Nations Law of the Sea, must comply, must obey some of those regulations while developing its blue economy. Apart from that, Yes, no country is a pariah. You must borrow from other countries, you must borrow from institutions like IMF, World Bank, but we're looking at the conditionality so that it will be favorable to Nigeria. We're looking at transfer of technology. When you engage foreign investors, when you get foreign technology, how soon can Nigeria get to know this technology? These things must be spelled out through law, through policies. That's what we're saying.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Bashir Jamo, we're coming back to you. We're in the last few minutes of the program now, so we'd just like you to sum up your closing thoughts on the issues at stake.
Where we are going as far as the blue economy is concerned, what is left now is what we have to put in place. I will say that what we need now is the enabling triangle. The enabling triangle will provide you with three basic things that you have to look into for the successful sailing. One angle has to do with the maritime security. And as I mentioned, in the last 2 years, we have been experiencing almost zero piracy. What is left for us now to sustain the tempo? And then the second angle has to do with good governance. And in different ways, speakers mention what to do or what has to do with good governance. Interventionary policies. Making policies now is not enough. Only from time to time, the government will have to look at the operationality of this blue economy and the maximization for the utilization of our own resources. What do we have to add? What do we need to balance? The government to introduce interventionary policy. Now, where we are now, we need soft policies that will create enabling environment for the blue economy to flourish. Then the last angle has to do with infrastructural development. We have to develop our own infrastructure. Mr. Cyril, now for instance, if we want blue economy to flourish, we can continue the way we are doing. You bring your cargo will have to be probably in the queue in terms of clearance. You take about 2, 3, 4 days. The NPA, they are trying their best in trying to improve on the equipment via the concessionaires. But we must make sure that we compete with the international best practices in terms of clearing our good. We have efficiency and effectiveness of our own ports through the automation process. The NPA now, they are now championing the community networking. So from there, we will have to have single window. All the agencies must come together, as one of the speakers said. We make sure that the technology help in driving efficiency and effectiveness of whatever we are doing within the maritime industry. This will have to help the blue economy to take off as quick as possible. Then the issue of financing, Mr. Engineer Lori dwelled much on the issue of Maritime Bank. I am happy to announce that the Maritime Bank is about to take off. We have an office just behind the American Embassy at the diplomatic zone where they are going to commence. I think most of the management officers have been appointed. All we need to do now is to brief the Honorable Minister and let him give endorsement for the commencement of that. On the issue of fleet expansion, we have reached almost final stage of disbursement of the CBFF that we have. So I would like to sincerely appreciate Nigerians and congratulate Nigerians. Very soon we will see the impact, and we will continue to monitor and evaluate the progress of blue economy, and the blue economy has come to stay. We thank the federal government, particularly the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCON, and the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. And we wish him a successful tenure, and we will assure him that we at the staff of the industry will work round the clock to ensure that we effectively implement all the policies that needed to be a success factor for the blue economy. Thank you so very much, Syria.
All right, Dr. Bashir Jamo, Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administration Safety Agency, NIMASA. Thank you so very much. You joined us from Lagos studio. We thank you for contributing to this program. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, and a quick closing comment from Engineer Emmanuel Lori as we round off.
Well, thank you very much, Cyril. And this program is fantastic, and then it's trying to point us in the right direction where the Nigerian as a nation can derive maximum benefits from our maritime endowment. I'd like to thank Mr. President. It's a very good initiative, and then I can assure that we will all work around the clock to ensure the success of the maritime blue economy, because this nation needs it and we owe it to our citizens it succeeds, so that we can get the maximum benefits that we really truly deserve. Thank you very much for having me on board.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer Emmanuel Lori, former Senior Marine Engineer Surveyor to Lloyd's Register of Shipping, London, and immediate Vice President, Association of Marine Engineers and Surveyors, who joined us from Lagos via Zoom. We thank you for being with us. Thank you. All right, as I always say, no one program can take care of all the issues, and we must leave this conversation here. And thank our guests who are here in the Abuja studio with me. A very big thank you to Dr. George Mogalu, Managing Director, National Inland Waterways, NIWA. It's always a pleasure to sit with you and discuss. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Cyril, for having me.
Right.
Thank you, Nigerians.
All right. And thank you so much, Professor Samuel Dike, Professor of Energy and Comparative Environmental Law, President, Association of Environmental Lawyers of Nigeria, and the Deputy Dean, Faculty of Law, Rivers State University. We thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. It's my pleasure seeing you interpersonal, physically today.
Right.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm humbled.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's it. We thank you too for being part of the program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.